Hello and welcome to the next video. In this video I'm going to go into a little more detail about an experience I had in Osaka while doing a night photo walk. Now, if you're not a photographer, you're probably wondering what's a photo walk. Well, photo walk is when you go to a particular place, area, or site and you just go and take pictures very casually, like you're not setting up an outdoor studio or anything, or outdoor modeling shoot or anything. It's just camera, photographer, go around, take pictures, or maybe you're with a group of people and you're taking pictures together as kind of a hangout, casual event, or maybe you're trying to capture a specific place under a certain set of circumstances, and so you decide to go there at sunset or sunrise, and you just go around and take photos, and it could be in a touristy fashion as well. So one of the things I had always wanted to do, and especially since I was in Japan and I was doing a lot of photography, was go to a particular place in Japan, in this case Osaka, and downtown Dotonbori area mostly. And I wanted to just spend an entire evening taking pictures, just seeing how the particular area changes, as there's fewer and fewer people, see what the nightlife looks like, see how the lighting conditions and the change in the number of people kind of changes the mood of a place, maybe capture some interesting photos, do a little street photography. So I think my days off at the time were Monday, Tuesday, and then Sunday nights, I believe my schedule at the time, I would get out early, maybe about 5, 7 o'clock at night. Not too bad. And so I decided, okay, I'm going to take a Sunday night to go out and do this thing, because I'll have Monday and Tuesday off, so I can kind of sleep off any kind of exhaustion that I'm going to feel from doing this all-nighter. And you're probably wondering, well, why would you be exhausted? You could just head back home and sleep. Well, for two reasons. Number one, I wanted to start this when the last train, or at least close to the end of the last trains. In Japan at the time that I was there, the last train was about 11:30, 12 o'clock at night most times. New Year's was the only exception. New Year's you can get trains throughout the night, but they'd be sparsed apart every half hour, which I wish they would have done that all the time. But anyway. So if you were quite a distance from where you lived and you missed that midnight train, unless you were willing to pay for a taxi or had your own car, you're kind of stuck wherever you are until about 6 the next morning. So I figured, let me take advantage of that. Let me head out and do this so that I can capture some really cool imagery. And I'll probably put some up in here, and these are all pictures I took, so full copyright. If you want to be able to use them, contact me directly. Otherwise, you don't have the right to use these. Anyway, so got out of work, went home, took a nap, and decided, okay, I'm gonna have a late dinner so that I can get a lot of rest in before doing this. And I decided, okay, I'm not gonna take a ton of camera stuff. It's just, I don't wanna be carrying around stuff, and mess my shoulders and my back up. I wanna do this as comfortable as possible, as light as possible. So, took the smaller of my 2 camera bodies, which was an Olympus, EM5 Mark II, the same one I'm recording this on right now. And at the time I had a 25mm f1.8 lens. I think it was the Olympus one. And for photographers, you already know why I picked this lens. For people who aren't photographers, they say that 17 to 25mm or 24 to 50 equivalent. I hate using these equivalents. But anyway, for my particular camera, is what's considered normal, or what the eye sees. Now, maybe in another video I'll talk about this, but the eye sees a lot more than that. But anyway, I chose the 25 because it was zoomed in enough that it would be something I could work with. I could take more candid pictures of people or situations or places without necessarily having to get right up in their face. I'm kind of shy that way, and even though I was in a foreign country and had a little more confidence to be able to do that, which is something I'm working on here. I wanted a lens that would give me just enough reach to make others feel comfortable and not change a situation that I saw was interesting to take a picture of with my presence, or at least lessen that likelihood. So chose that lens, and it was also very easy to pocket that sucker. I think I had like a little belt pouch where I could shove the camera in one and maybe a lens in another, or put the lens in the pocket. I forget the exact setup. But it was something that's very portable, and I could carry extra batteries, and it was more like a utility belt thing, just boom, 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 click, done. And then put it away and not have my hands occupied if I needed to do anything. So, I digress. So, decided to bring that setup out there. So after taking a long nap, or forcing myself to take a long nap after work, went out, I think it was about 10:30 at night. Took the train from where I was living, which is Gotenyama Station, all the way to downtown Osaka, so I can be as close, and go to Shinsaibashi, which is the station and area of where Dontonbori is. Trying to remember where I had dinner, but it was, I think some fast food place or something, nothing too fancy. Ate, and decided, all right, last train's coming, so let's get this started. So what I ended up doing is walking around, did the north, south, east, west, along all the different streets, just to try to see if there's anything interesting that I found. And at this point, I'll start throwing up some pictures as I'm just talking about heading out there. The interesting thing about that area is all the little tiny restaurants and izakayas and bars and clubs that you have along there. Like there's always something happening, and you don't have to go too far to find a little. If you want to find a little hole in the wall place that's a little quiet, where you can just have a drink, chat with a friend, and hang out, or just have a quiet dinner. Plenty of those there. If you want to see some interesting graffiti, just walk around the Meimura area, and you'll find plenty of that. And a lot of it is obviously commissioned graffiti. It's not just random people spraying stuff, but you have that there. Or if you want a nice quiet walk along a body of water, a small river, canal, and maybe see some lights, you have that there as well. Or if you just find these little interesting little compositions of things, and especially as the light changes, things that during the day aren't as interesting, maybe at night become more interesting because they're lit up, or there's certain shadows or shapes that you maybe take for granted because of the hustle and bustle of when there's a lot of people there. Or just even just some of the people there, as you're walking by, you might find an interesting character doing, and you catch them doing something really unique. You think, wow, this is the character of Japan. This is, what it's like to be here. So that was my whole goal of doing that. And you're probably wondering, how did I go from 11 to 6? Well, one of the things I did is, as I'm walking around, because obviously that tires you out, even if you've napped before and your body's not used to that kind of weird cycle now, is I would stop at whatever place was open at the time. I remember one of the stops was at the McDonald's that was there. There was like a 3-story McDonald's. It's part of the architecture of the Shinsaibashi shopping section, or arcade as they call it. It's like a covered area, shops on both sides, but it's kind of open down the center, and it's open to the elements at both ends, or at an end of the street, then you cross the street, and then it continues on in both directions. So I stopped at this McDonald's. I think I grabbed coffee and maybe some French fries or something. And the first floor, I think they were still cleaning up stuff. So I go, okay, grab my coffee, went to the second floor. Happened to notice a bunch of people just sleeping. Some people with luggage, some young people that probably got out of clubs or bars, and were just kind of resting up because the train back to maybe their dorm or wherever they lived was gone, and they were going to spend thousands of yen or tens of thousands of yen trying to get back. So they're just there. So So I remember sitting there having my coffee, kind of looking around and going, well, this is a part of Osaka or Japan or Asia that most people don't see, except people crazy like me who go out at night and purposely walk around and look for this kind of stuff. But it just kind of shows that other side of life and how some locals live their lives. What was funny about that is I remember one of the staff members from McDonald's coming up to the second floor and saying something in Japanese to people there, and everyone kind of just, got up, woke up, stretched, and got up to start leaving. And I thought, oh man, I wanted to finish this and relax a bit. I'm a little bit tired. I just need this break. But it turns out, and I kind of figured it out when I looked at other people, they were going to the third floor. I realized, oh, this person's just saying, oh, sorry, we have to clean up this area, but you can go to the third floor. So we all went up to the third floor, stayed there for half hour as they cleaned the second floor, and then sure enough, she came back up. Okay, I gotta clean this area. Can you go down to the second floor? So that was a kind of a hilarious thing to see, is this whole, you don't have to leave, but I need you to kind of move away from this area. Bless their hearts, those hard-working people. So after I finished off with my coffee and my snack, and rested a bit, I go, all right, let's go back out there and get some more pictures. And I believe one or two of the pictures I probably already put up happened during that time. So walked around Amemura Street, which has that kind of American style or faux American style architecture and shops and trinkets and souvenirs and touristy stuff. And it was interesting to see at that point when 90, if not 100% of the clubs are closed, how much quieter the streets get. And you may find there may be a little bit of litter, but for the most part it's pretty clean and not much going on. And it's just that usual quiet that you know of Japan, even though you're in the heart of the city, on a concrete jungle with skyscrapers and tall buildings and apartment complexes everywhere. Quiet, just utterly quiet. Also walking on the Amemura Street, near it is an area that more for adults, and I don't mean just the hostess bars, I mean love hotels where people go for a certain amount of hours or a day, and they'll have whatever themes they have, maybe a jungle themed room or whatever. And seeing those places lit up and seeing every so often somebody going in, and maybe a streetwalker outside or nearby. So it's interesting to see that when there's no hustle and bustle. Also remember going, Shinsaibashi no Tombori, going by some of the areas that have shrines. There's quite a few shrines and altars in these areas in Dontonbori. Really, and everywhere in Japan. It's another thing that I had mentioned in a prior video about how you find temples and shrines everywhere in Japan. Well, even Dontonbori, you'll find those, and it's pretty neat when you're going into one, and you're probably the only person there other than maybe a cat. And the place is still, the lanterns are still on. Even though they might be electronic lanterns, but they're still on. So you can go there in the middle of the night or early AM, pray, perform whatever ritual you need to do, or just have a quiet moment. So that was pretty neat to see that as well. And then as I was cutting through some of the little side streets and alleys, every so often you'll find something interesting. Like, I remember there was a vending machine that had it was probably a toy shotgun, but it was there on display. And then I think they had other things like shells and whatnot. I think it was more for toy dispensing and just the novelty of this oddity outside of a restaurant or bar. That was pretty cool, pretty unexpected. But, and I remember got tired of, after about an hour or two of this, and I think one of the last stops I made was at Starbucks, which for some reason that night happened to be open late. I think it was maybe 2, 3 in the morning. And there's a bookstore on the second floor, and It's a pretty popular place. So I remember going in there, grabbing my coffee. There was a few other people. Not as many people sleeping as McDonald's, but certainly were people there. And around that time also, once I finished up there, walked up and down the shopping arcades, because they're pretty well lit and quiet, and started noticing all the garbage bags being put outside or left out in front of these businesses. Something that I hadn't really thought about is, oh, when do they take out their garbage and what's the process? Got to see it. I remember walking there and seeing the garbage lined up on and these are wide walking streets. I'll see if I haven't already put up a picture, I'll put one up. Or walking streets, and they're wide enough that you can get a truck in there, or a couple trucks, and just fill them up. Put the garbage in there and head out, and then there would be people coming in and sweeping and cleaning for the next morning. So I got to see that. That was pretty neat. That was something I never thought about. Oh, what's the process for keeping this going and getting rid of the trash and recyclables, and how do you clean these areas? Because they're pretty big and they're pretty clean most of the time, but there's a ton of foot traffic that goes through there. Well, doing the night walk helped me do that, or helped me see that. So that was pretty neat. And at a certain point, you end up walking the same streets again and again, and not much changes at a certain point. It's probably about 4 or 5 in the morning. It's the same scene over and over. So at about 5:30ish, I go, okay, let's see if the train station's open. So walked over there, started seeing people gathering outside there, because some of the underground train stations, they lock the area, and these underground areas are massive. Like, you can walk down city blocks and never be on the surface, which is great in summer because you're not burning up, and they'll be air conditioned for the most part. So it's a great way to beat the heat, or the cold for that matter. But in some cases, there'll be like a door, almost like a bomb shelter type door, to close people off from the platform, because they don't want, I guess in part for safety, and they don't want people going in there when there's no one, and or I guess homeless people just sleeping there all the time, or people falling asleep on the train tracks, or doing early mornings acts of suicide. So by about 5:45, 6 o'clock, those doors swung open, and then just people go to the platform, and then you waited 20 or 30 minutes more, and then sure enough, you'd hear the announcement for the train, and everyone would kind of queue up, and there was that first train. And I remember getting on, and it's underground for a few stops. Got the connecting train that would then take me, which was the Keihan line, which would then take me to, I believe, Kyobashi, and then from Kyobashi the rest of the way to go to Nyama. And at that time, you get to see not just the people that were out and about when you were out and about, but you get to see the people heading off early morning to work. So it was interesting seeing that sea of suits early in the morning, who probably have their cup of coffee in hand, or just had breakfast at home and are kind of rushing to start their day, and here I am on my way to sleep from a very long night. And of course, got to see the sunrise, on the train once it went out from being underground to being above ground, surface level. So very exhausted at the end of it, even with a very long sleep that next day. Still felt tired the second day. So I advise anybody, if you do these kind of night photo walks, make sure you have plenty of time off afterwards, and load up on extra sleep ahead, because you're still going to be missing some of it afterwards. But in the end, it was worth it for the pictures I got. Didn't get as many as I wanted, but at least I got to see the other side of this foreign country that I was living in as an expat, and have some pretty good photos to show off. So anyway, that was the Osaka photo night walk experience. Hope you guys enjoyed it. See you in the next video.